everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Ray, and I am a veterinarian. I'm a small animal general practitioner. I have this channel. Welcome to everyone. If you're new, welcome for the first time. If you are coming back, thank you so much for entertaining my inner monologue here, where I try to basically answer your questions. I would honestly answer any question that you guys had, as long as it's not like a medical related question to your specific pet, but any general question you have. And a lot of times you guys ask me about food, and a large part of this channel has been trying to break down and remove some of the marketing, common fads and things like that from pet food, because the resounding thing I hear from all of you is it's so confusing. Why does it have to be confusing? I just want to do the right thing. It's very stressful, and I don't want that for you. Pets are supposed to be fun. You know, I went to school for many, many years, and I want you guys to put that stress on me, let me help you, and that's what we're gonna do today. So I am going to, as usual, entertain a request, and so today's request is coming from Warren Horowitz, and Warren said they would like my opinion on vegan, vegetarian dog food, and the specific one that they are asking about is Natural Balance vegetarian dog food. Now, we're not gonna get into the philosophical, ethical, you know, all that stuff in this video. We are simply reviewing the food. So keep that in mind. We're not going to attack each other. This is not one of those militant, you know, belligerent food channels. This is a fun food channel. We're gonna have a fun time, and we're just gonna look at the food for what it is. That's all we're gonna do today. And so if you want to do that, then, you know, follow along. Let's see. So if that's what you want to do, join me, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, do all those things, and we're going to jump into the vegetarian option today, which is naturalbalanceinc.com, and it's going to be the Natural Balance vegetarian dog option. So here's the website. I've got a lot of other tabs open because today is a rare day where I actually have a day off of work. So I'm going to try to pre-record some videos for you. So just to give you a heads up of what you can expect, hopefully in the near future. Fancy Feast, we had some requests for Fancy Feast and budget options, so that's coming up. Earthborn Holistic, if I can get the information. You can see here it says, thanks for your submission. I emailed the companies to get extra information that we need. Question about senior food, so Blue Buffalo versus Science Diet, that's coming up. And then Redford Naturals, you guys come up with some of the most bizarre requests, foods I have never, ever in my life heard of. And so keep them coming, because without that I won't have a channel, I guess. So, but anyway, today we're gonna focus on the vegetarian option from Natural Balance. So, all right, so here is the vegetarian recipe from Natural Balance. This is a dog food. It says the life stage is adult. It's available in 4, 12, and 24 pounds. Let's see really quick where we can buy this, if it's going to be available, or if we've got to, oh, you can buy it anywhere. Amazon, Chewy, Petco, Petflow, PetSmart, so that's good. So it's readily available, and we're not going to have to hunt for it. So if this is something that turns out to be a good one, you guys can procure it pretty easily. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with just looking at the package, which is what we normally do. We want to pick out some of the things that are really just marketing, and they're there basically to draw us in, but they really don't hold any value as far as what the nutritional content of the food is. And so on the front of the package, you can see up on the top, they're not showing meat. A lot of times there's going to be you know, pictures of fish and things like that. They're not doing that because obviously this is a vegetarian diet, so you've got you know, some vegetables and things like that there. It does say that it's a limited ingredient. I suppose that if you have a pet that has a food allergy, because most food allergies are protein related, this could potentially be an option. And I know Purina makes a vegetarian option where soybean is one of the protein sources, and it is a hydrolyzed diet, and that's vegetarian, so that kind of makes sense. You know, that this could be compatible with a food trial if it is processed in a way where it is completely separated from some of their other diets, because they do have other diets that are not vegetarian. And so I get asked this question a lot, you know, can we pick a diet that's limited ingredient, it be a food trial, and it be okay for my dog that has allergies? Number one, there is a difference between a food allergy and a food intolerance. So a food allergy truly is an allergic reaction. It is a hypersensitivity reaction. Whereas an intolerance is it just doesn't agree with them. And so it's important to differentiate between those two. If you have the intolerance, you may be able to get away with using one of these foods that's maybe just processed in the same plant, but just on a different run. If you have a dog or a cat that has a true food allergy, a hypersensitivity immune reaction to a specific protein in the food, you've got to have none of it. You know, we can't have any residue available in order for your pet not to have a reaction. And so if this food is, if the plant is completely cleaned, all the machinery is broke down, everything is sanitized, cleaned, power washed, etc., and there's no residue from any of the other diets, this could potentially be a food trial diet for an allergic food reaction. Or if not, because I don't know how you would get that information, you'd have to rely on customer service or you'd have to feel pretty good, visit the plant, something like that, to feel like that's the case in a very sensitive animal that has that medical condition. Otherwise, if your pet just has a food intolerance, this may be perfectly fine. Ooh, we better plug in our battery, please. I hope I brought my... For once, I've actually come out here prepared. It's getting ready to be summer here, and so I want to thank everybody for subscribing and watching the ads, etc., because this video is not sponsored. I do not get any money for talking about this food, and I do it by request. However, I do get some money when you guys watch the ads, and with that money, I'm going to buy an air conditioner that maybe is not so loud that it sounds like we're at the races. And so thank you everyone who does that and watches the whatever, just does all the things, because you allow me not to be excessively sweaty in my videos, at least hopefully soon. We'll see. All right, so where was I here? Okay, so that that could be potentially an option if you have a food intolerant pet, a food allergy. Maybe that limited ingredient thing is not going to be strict enough for your particular pet. With that food allergy, that is a medical diagnosis, so that would be a question to ask your veterinarian, if this food would be appropriate for your pet that has a food allergy. You can see right there it says vegetarian recipe, which is fine because that's totally true. This is a vegetarian recipe. It says it's made with wholesome grains, so we're avoiding, that whole controversy with grain-free and is it good, is it bad? I'm not going to get into that. So much debate. Things are changing. Lots of research ongoing. Yes, it's more than just research from one paper. I hear that all the time, just responding, and had a really great dialogue with someone in the comments about that and saying, that research was flawed. It was one study and the study was flawed, and it was, funded by, a company that maybe had some invested interest. That was not the only study done. That is what the news wants you to believe. That is what's being perpetuated. But there have been many studies that are not showing a clear, definitive answer on that. And so to be overly cautious, and because grain-free really does not provide any nutritional benefit, most veterinary internists, cardiologists, dermatologists, general practitioners are just saying, until this is solidified, which may take many years. A lot of these research papers take many years. Just avoid it. There's no reason to do it. All these companies that have created grain-free diets, they can just add grain in if they, don't want to fall subject to that, whole thing. Yes, that involves labeling, and I understand that's a hard thing. But anyway, that's the deal with the grain-free thing, and I don't want to get into it. I will. If you want a list of various papers that maybe you have not been privy to or even realize are out there, I would, be happy to. I'll flash them up here really quick, and you can pause and look them up if you want. But we're not going to get into that today. The front of the package, all in all, is pretty simple, which is something that I like. I don't like it when it's too busy. That's just me. I don't know if any of you guys saw the Gentle Giants video that I did many years ago, but that was just a total seizure in a package, and it's just not appealing to me. But if it's appealing to you, that's fine. Let's move down here and see some of the things. So plant-powered vegetarian recipe, plant-powered, that's just an interesting, again, marketing thing. And the word recipe, usually does have a meaning in dog foods, and so maybe I'll do a short on what all of the different verbiage means. I had a question about that as well. And this one, vegetarian recipe, I think they're just throwing that out there because usually the word recipe does have a percentage meaning associated with it, but they're not listing any specific ingredient, so I don't think in this case that it does. Brown rice, oat groats, pearled barley peas, potato protein, canola oil, potatoes, etc., etc. So there is no meat listed on here, so obviously that's true. You can see some of the vitamins and things that were added to fortify the food. So you got some vitamin supplements in there, flaxseed, citric acid, lots of different components used to get this diet to be nutritionally sound, we hope. So we're going to use the point scoring system. It is a system that allows us to remove ourselves from the emotional attachment we sometimes will develop with food because we have an emotional attachment to our pets, right? And so this just allows us to remove ourselves from that. And so it's a point scoring system. I have this little scorecard. Feel free to screenshot it and use it to work through the foods with us. A lot of you that have been here with me kind of know the gist of it and know kind of how this is going to go through, but I will walk everyone through it today. So as far as the ingredients go, there's 2 points there. If it's not grain-free and it's not raw, they're going to get 2 points, and so we are going to get 2 points. Let me grab my notebook here. So we are going to start off with 2 points. Very good. The next thing I want to do, because it's right here, is the nutritional statement. This is the AFCO statement. All the packages have this on here that are, I guess, in the States. I think outside of the country, there are different requirements, but I'm here in the US of A, and so these packages will have an AFCO statement. We're looking for if the food was feeding child, and we are looking for if the food is for the correct life stage. And so one of the big no-nos is all life stages. We're trying to find a food that does not have that on the label, and this one does not. It says natural balance, limited ingredient, vegetarian recipe dog food is formulated. So it wasn't feeding child. Would have liked to have seen that, but it does meet the nutritional levels established by AFCO for maintenance. So it is an adult maintenance food, and we're going to use this verbiage to pull up our parameters for ideal optimal nutrition for the adult dog. So they're going to get 1 point there. So let's go ahead and head over to this section, which is the guaranteed analysis. Now, normally when I review these foods, I will contact the company, call them, get the information, etc., etc. I did not do that today because if these parameters are pretty close, it's a pretty good idea if this food's going to be, on par. Ideally, you would convert these to a dry matter basis, or you will have the company email them and send you that information. Guaranteed analysis is minimum, maximum. It's not ideal, but if the food is falling pretty close in the reference range, and I think that this one is because I kind of already just did a little tiny little peek on it, it's not going to make a difference, and so I just didn't waste time on that. I like to be efficient, and so I didn't do that today. Now we can always do that. You guys can always do that. I have videos on how to do that. But let's just pretend you're, going through this and you're like, I would like a vegetarian food, and this pops up. If you look at this guaranteed analysis, are you going to be able to say whether or not you want to look into it a little further? So that's the game we're going to play today. Let's pull up our standards. Let's see if we can do a side by side here. We should be able to. Okay, so all of my little Nutrition Nation groupies, you guys are familiar with this chart. We use these charts all the time. These charts come from Small Animal Clinical Nutrition. It's a textbook. That textbook is linked down below for you. It is a free, full text, full picture, beautiful textbook, and I do recommend that you kind of peruse it and you can reference back to it. That is why I'm not listing specific references, because it's all in that textbook. So if you want to know why I'm saying what I'm saying and what information I am using, and if I'm making it up, I am not. It is in that textbook, and I just took the information from that textbook and put it in these lovely charts that we use to help us focus. And so here is our adult dog chart with some key nutrient parameters. Now, I did have a request to kind of go over some additional parameters, and if they're available here, I am going to go ahead and do that for you today. And so let's start at the top. There are 5 points that I will give to the guaranteed analysis. The points that I think are very important on a first line approach are going to be the protein, the fat, the calcium, the phosphorus, which are your minerals, and then also the fiber. These are parameters that often, if you need to email a company, they will have those available. If you start asking them for things like sodium, magnesium, things like that, a lot of times it's difficult to get that information. And so that's why I focused on these 5. There are a couple other parameters that if they're listed, we will go ahead and look at, but we're not going to give points for those. And so let's see here. So far, we've got 2 points because it's not grain-free and raw. We've got 1 point for the AFCO statement. Now we have 5 points that we can get on the guaranteed analysis. So for the adult dog, according to Small Animal Clinical Nutrition, the optimal levels, this is not AFCO. AFCO is a huge raise. We're talking about tailored optimal nutrition based on the research for adults, getting that shrinking that down, because all foods are AFCO. To sell them, they have to be within AFCO. So we want to find out what's the best out of everything, so we're shrinking that range. Protein needs to be between 15 and 30, and this is coming in at 18%. So we're going to get 1 point for the protein. Fat at 8, we want between 10 and 20. We are a little bit low on the fat. So again, we're not having it's vegetarians who are not having that meat source, so it is going to be a little bit more difficult for them to supply that fat that we need through non-animal protein sources. And so we are losing a point here on the fat. Calcium and phosphorus, the minerals. So calcium is coming in at 0.5%, which is very good because the range is 0.5 to 1. A lot of times we are finding that it is very difficult to get the minerals in the appropriate range, especially with a lot of these high protein mantra, high protein philosophy, high protein fad. I'm not saying that this is a standard because it is outside of the standards. This high protein thing is not something that is taught in veterinary school. This is something that pet food marketing companies have put out there and perpetuated. And so a lot of times when that happens, when you put a lot of protein, that protein source comes with calcium and phosphorus. You cannot easily and readily remove those things. So as you see with this vegetarian diet, and hopefully those of you that have followed along, you can make this connection with this non-meat based diet, with this diet that has a lower protein, we're coming in probably the lowest that we have ever seen in the calcium level. Phosphorus, we want between 0.4 and 0.8, and they're reading it at 0.4. So again, the very low end of the range, and we've not seen anything like this. So we've got minerals on point here. Fiber needs to be less than 5. Fiber is at 5, so we are going to get a point here. So the only thing on this guaranteed analysis that we were a little bit off on was the fat. Now, can we supplement maybe some non-protein based fats? Yes, maybe we can. Maybe we can add in, maybe some olive oil or something like that to bring that fat level up. Now, I would say you would have to consult maybe a nutritionist or something like that to make sure that you're properly supplementing. But I think that could potentially be an option to bring that fat level up. So right now, pretty good, looking pretty good on the guaranteed analysis. This is getting a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so that already is pretty impressive compared to some of the other foods that we have we've evaluated. Now let's go through some of the things that are not in my point scoring system, but that are listed here. And so vitamin E at 50 international units is pretty wimpy. Vitamin E, ideally to get that antioxidant, scavenging, free radical work done, we want the vitamin E to be above 400. So the vitamin E is pretty wimpy here. Omegas, I don't have listed. They're not listing the chloride. Yeah, they're not listing some of the other things. Now I want to point out, because I have gotten a couple comments or questions about this on just reading food packages in general. You will see down here some of these parameters have stars. The last 3, the taurine, the omega-3s, the omega-6, they have these little stars. And then under that, we have this verbiage that says not recognized as an essential nutrient by AFCO dog food nutrient profiles. That statement is referring only to the starred items. It is not referring to the food as a whole. It is not referring to anything else other than the starred items. So I do get that question a couple times. So I just want to point that out just so that you guys know. The only thing that is not recognized as essential by AFCO, and that's why we don't really use AFCO, because again, we know taurine is something that is essential. They're just not, as a government agency, recognizing it as such. It is those START items that they're designating that. So keep that in mind. So that was the guarantee analysis, and we're at a pretty good place, I think, right now. And the next thing we're going to move into is the feeding guidelines. So it'll be interesting to see how much of this food that we need to feed in order to, how much does our pet need to consume in order to get the nutrition that they need. And so, let's see here. They're recommending we feed once or twice daily. I recommend that too. You want to keep it in a cool, dry place. So I always pick 20 pounds because I don't want to calculate the resting energy every single video, just because it bogs things down. I do have a video on that if you want to learn how to calculate it. But 20 pounds, the resting energy requirement, if you don't use the multiplier, is 363. If you do use the multiplier because your dog's a little bit more active and not sedentary, it's going to go up to about 530. And so they're suggesting that we feed 1.5 cups. And they are using the 8-ounce standard measuring cup. And that is another important thing that a lot of people don't think about. And so when pet food companies say a cup, they actually mean an 8-ounce measuring cup. I have seen and done dietary consultations where the cups that people use are definitely not 8-ounce cups. So it is not one of those scoopers. It is not a Dixie cup. It is not a mug. It is not the bowl. It is an 8-ounce cup. So that's really important if you're having issues with your pet and obesity. A lot of times the first thing that I tell people or ask people is, show me your cup. What does your cup look like? Because a lot of times people don't realize that this is a standard 8-ounce cup across the board. And I'm very happy that they're being very specific about that. So let's see how many calories we have. We saw it somewhere here. So calories. This is going to be 365 kcals per cup, and we said 1.5. Just do the math really quick. 547. So yeah, very good. So that's going to bring this to an 8. And so I think this is a very good option nutritionally. Again, we're not going to get into it's not right to feed dogs vegetarian, etc. We're not doing that today. That's a personal belief, and we're not going to attack people for their personal beliefs. Nutritionally, we're talking about nutrition. This is going to get an 8. Yes, I realize we're not, this is not breaking it down into the amino acids. Are they getting the correct? Are they not getting the correct? That information is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to extrapolate. And so if that's something that interests you and you want to do that, by all means, email them and see if you can glean that information. I think it's going to be outrageously difficult, and you're probably not going to get an answer. But as far as looking at the numbers, just the basic nutrient numbers, this food is scoring an 8, which is pretty darn good. Let's see how expensive. I think it said we could get this on Chewy. I will say the comment said vegan, vegetarian. I'm not seeing anywhere verbiage that this is vegan, so I do just want to point that out. It does say vegetarian, but it does not say vegan. It does say it's free of meat, dairy, soy, gluten, artificial colors, and artificial flavors. But it does not specifically say vegan. So on Chewy, if you purchase this and you do the 25-pound bag, it is $3.05 a pound. And it is $72.98. If you do auto ship, it's a little bit cheaper. The 12-pound bag is $47.99, and the 4-pound bag is $24.98. So $3. We've definitely had foods that are less. We've certainly had foods that are more. A lot of you guys ask me about these really expensive brands, but as far as I'm concerned, and I didn't know anything about this brand. In the future, if I have a client that is important to them to feed vegetarian, I think this would be a pretty darn good option. Keep in mind the fat was a little bit low, and so it may be something where we would have to supplement, like I said, maybe some olive oil or something like that, but we'd have to be careful that we actually put the right amount, because I don't know how much fat, and there's probably a calculator out there, You know, we don't just want to pour that on there. We want to be, at least I like to be very scientific about it, because extra fats can cause things like pancreatitis and things like that. So we don't want to overdo the fat. That was the only thing that was a little bit off. It was not feeding trialed, it was formulated. So there is that there, but otherwise, those were the only 2 deductions. And so that was natural, balanced, limited ingredient, vegetarian recipe. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Keep the comments coming. Be sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell. That way when I have a new video, you know, you'll be notified so you can see if it is something that interests you. And you can practice. Practice makes perfect. Just practice running through these foods. I know a lot of you guys already kind of like, when I mention a food, you peruse through things and you already kind of know the answer before I get there, which is great. That's what I wanted. I wanted to empower you guys. And that's really what I want to do. I want to empower you guys to understand things and not let me, anyone else, manipulate your mind into thinking things that maybe sound good, but actually are not statistically or logically true. So I hope you guys will join me again, and I will see you next Thursday for another video. Bye.